We live in an age where most Freelander-sized compact 4x4s are little more than jacked-up estate cars with four-wheel drive systems that are only any use when you're likely to get stuck, which is why Jeep's Cherokee is rather refreshing. Here's a proper 4x4 that, though not quite as polished as some of its pretend off-roader rivals, is perfectly house-trained for suburban use, yet can cut it in the rough.
Try tackling terrain like that in virtually any other compact 4x4 and it'll prove expensive.
Cherokee is Jeep's bread and butter brand. It was the first car they launched here, and it used to be the bedrock of their range until the Americans expanded the lineup upwards with the luxurious Grand Cherokee and downwards with the more affordable Patriot and Compass models. Now, this particular Cherokee aims to prove that there's still a place for it, both in the Jeep lineup and in the 4x4 market as a whole. Are there buyers within the compact 4x4 sector looking for something relatively affordable but still able to tackle more than a rutted track? Well, if there are, there could be life in the Cherokee brand yet. Only one engine is offered in the Cherokee in the UK. But it's most relevant available to Jeep, a 174 brake horsepower, 2.8 litre 6-cylinder diesel. Now, it's not the most refined engine of its type, but it suits the character of this Cherokee very well and leaves you under no illusions that this isn't a car designed to perambulate in front of city centre shopping malls. The inclusion of a live rear axle is another reminder that this car is built extremely tough. Its ride on road isn't anything like as good as a Honda CR-V or even a Land Rover Freelander, but the Jeep is always reminding you that it's built to withstand far more abuse than both of those rivals. With decent ground clearance and a proper low-range transfer box, hill descent control on automatic models, and a revised version of the Select Track 2 four-wheel drive system, which anticipates and prevents wheel slippage before it occurs, making it ideal, say Jeep, for tarmac and towing work. The Cherokee is well equipped for off-road driving. Now, the hill descent control is interesting in the way that it operates. A tilt switch just senses whether the vehicle is on a slope, and if an incline is detected, then the HDC hill descent control cuts in. Now, it'll even work if the vehicle is pointed uphill, it'll even work in reverse. You probably won't have heard of this car's sister model, the Dodge Nitro, a rather bling looking 4x4 sold by the same importers and running on the same basic platform. Now, if you had, and you could put it side by side with this car, you'd notice similarities like the bluff looking front end with its square headlamps and steroidal wheel arches. You certainly wouldn't mistake this car for one of those rival school-run 4x4s. If you've owned an older Cherokee, as many potential buyers will have done, you'll notice that this one is a degree bigger, with a wheelbase that's 50mm longer and wheels that have been pushed out 25mm wider front and rear. The height and length of the luggage bay have both increased by 75mm too, meaning that you can carry 419 litres of luggage with all the seats in place and 1,404 litres with the seats folded. You've also got this useful storage compartment for muddy boots and things. It's still not that big for rear seat occupants, but you have to say that this Cherokee makes use of its space more intelligently. At the wheel, the build quality is all very functional, but it all seems very solidly constructed and the controls are very simple to use. Certainly it's a lot more masculine here than this car's rather rounded predecessor, a car that sold 60% of its units to women. This time round, the demographic is rather more hairy of chest. Budget at or around the £25,000 mark if you want one of these, a figure that puts this car up against pricier versions of mostly less capable rivals. So where does this car sit in its marketplace? Well, nowhere you can easily pigeonhole. Compact 4x4 sales have lately split into three distinct sectors. You've got affordable budget models like the Kia Sportage or the Suzuki Grand Vitara. You've got the quality middle ground represented by cars like Toyota's RAV4, Nissan's X-Trail or Honda's CR-V. And you've got the premium contenders like Land Rover's Freelander, BMW's X3 or Audi's Q5. Now, the Jeep fits into neither of these sectors, but should you care, when the only car that can really get near its prowess on the rough stuff is Land Rover's Freelander. Jeep buyers have traditionally been people who like to go their own way, and they'll need to be to buy this car. The well-appointed limited trim includes features like leather seats, leather-trimmed steering wheel and leather-trimmed gear knob, as well as big alloy wheels, stability control and air conditioning. Compare that with an equivalently specified Freelander and the Jeep weighs in at about £4,000 less. Jeep has wisely chosen to ditch its usual policy of starting the range with a massively unpopular and desperately thirsty petrol engine so that it can advertise an attractive base level price, instead sticking with the vastly more sensible diesel option. Now, this unit returns a combined fuel economy figure of 32.8 miles to the gallon. That's not as good as a diesel Freelander, but since this engine is considerably more powerful, then that shouldn't come as any surprise. Emissions are pegged at 228 grams per kilometre, which is no great shakes, but it's worth remembering that this car tips the scales at 1,980 kilograms, so it's a serious piece of automotive real estate. Residual values for the previous Cherokee to this one tended to hover at about 45%, and there's no reason to expect that this car is going to be much different. The Jeep Cherokee is a car that divides opinion. For pragmatic people who recognise that it's one of the rare compact 4x4s that can actually do the business off-road and do so at a reasonably competitive price, then it may well be appealing. I suppose the question you have to ask yourself is, are you buying the car for your own needs or to project a perceived lifestyle to other people? Now, if the latter, then it won't suit you. But if for you, buying a 4x4 is about more than just getting a warm and fuzzy feeling, if you prefer to spend your money on the bits that really matter, then you'll have little cause for complaint with the no-nonsense Cherokee.